I don't know. I'm preferring wine number 1 right now, to be honest. I'm Matthew Horkey. For the last 7 years, I've traveled around the world tasting thousands of wines annually in search of the most unique, exciting, and expensive bottles on the planet. When it comes to the great wines of Italy, people always refer to the 3 Bs, Brunello di Montalcino, Barolo, and this third B, this less heralded one called Barbaresco. Barbaresco is named after the village. It's just pretty darn close to Barolo. It's only like a 15-minute drive. Barbarescos are also made of the grape Nebbiolo, just like Barolo. However, the wines need a little bit less of an aging requirement before they're released. The stereotype is that the tannins are a little bit softer, a little bit easier to drink. It's still the grape Nebbiolo. It's got these haunting aromas, really things that get us going, like things like tar, rose petal, dried cranberry, perfume type notes, pepper. It still has the hard tannins that really get you. Nebbiolo does best on steep hillsides where it gets a lot of sun exposure. It's from Piedmont, Italy, so it's a little bit cooler. It's a late ripening grape, and late ripening grapes often mean complexity because they ripen long and slow. The big differences for me is when you go throughout the communes of Barolo, prices that producers can fetch for Barolo is quite high. Every square inch of land is covered with vineyard. Is when you go to Barbaresco, only 15-20 minute drive away, there are a lot of forests peppered in between the vineyards. While Barolos have just skyrocketed in terms of price, Barbaresco is a place where I think you can still find value, like the producer we have here today. It's a small producer. I first met them when I was in Singapore. They came and did a tasting, then I went to visit them. I found the wines to be very good and value for money off the charts. The Challenger is a wine from Eastern Europe, Plavac Mali from Croatia. Plavac Mali is the offspring of the original Zinfandel, which is Sorianic Pastelenski or Croatia or Tribidrag. I actually did a video on that tasting against the original Zinfandel. I'll put that in the description box below. Plavac Mali is from the Dalmatian coast, the Mediterranean part of Croatia. It can vary a lot depending on where it's grown, if it's on the islands or on the mainland, how the producers are working with it. It can be pretty hard, pretty big, pretty alcoholic, almost Amarone-like, or it can be more delicate. And I feel like sometimes it can act like a Nebbiolo d'Alba, maybe a Barbaresco, and this producer actually mimics that style, so I'm excited to taste. I've never really done the tasting side-by-side blind, so I'm excited to do this. Plavac Mali ripens unevenly. Since it's a Mediterranean grape, it can get pretty ripe, pretty alcoholic, but it still can have rose petal, tar, really unique flavors, but the tannins are very similar to Nebbiolo. They really can bite. They're small. They can really get you. Plavac Mali does best in poor rocky soils. Some of the best vineyards of Plavac Mali in Croatia are incredibly steep. They look like this. They fall right into the sea. It's almost like the Douro, the Mosel, meeting the Adriatic Sea. Some of the most spectacular vineyards in the world. I even remember I was on a trip through Dalmatia, Croatia once with a pretty prestigious German wine writer, and he was telling me, Matthew, I want to see steep slopes like we have in Germany, blah, blah. And I remember we pulled into Dingac, which is one of the Grand Crus of Croatia, and you go through the tunnel and you look down the Adriatic Sea and the vineyards are like this, and I remember him looking at me and going, should try to make this a little bit more difficult on me because it's only 2 wines. I had somebody Corv in them and then mix them up. I just came, sat down, I'm ready to shoot the video, and let's see if I can tell the difference or how the wines show. Maybe they're drastically different. Not tasting out of my Gabriel Glass Standard Edition today, tasting out of my Rovsya glasses. I found these on Amazon when I came back to the US in 2022. These are the best inexpensive glasses that I've ever used. I bought them for a Chardonnay blind tasting video, and I liked them so much that I bought a second set. These are the best inexpensive glasses I've ever used. I'll leave a link in the description below so you can check them out. I know some of you have actually purchased them, so if you have, leave a comment. Tell me how you like them. I'm super excited to only be tasting 2 wines. I've been shooting a ton of blind tasting videos. You're gonna see them coming up with all this kind of lighting. They're gonna look really, really good. The face-off videos are not doing as well as I wanted to, but I'll shoot a couple more with my new lighting setup and we'll see. But it's just nice to not have the pad and paper in front of me and all the organization. I can just taste and be with the wines. I think that's when you're more observant. Let's take a look here. Okay, so the one here on my right, your left, is a little bit lighter in color. Maybe they'll tip away. That could be the Nebbiolo. I don't know. Let's see what they taste like, okay? Here, the one on my left, your right. Oh, okay. This is probably going to be a little bit easier than I thought because this smells like Plavac Mali. Strawberry. With good Plavac Mali, there's a lot of rose petal, and that's what you get here. It's more dried rose. Almost like crushed dried rose petals, thyme, just strawberry for days, a little bit of leather rubber. Super complex wine here. I mean, this is really, really good. When you give people good Plavac Mali wine, sometimes they're shocked that they're from Croatia. Here, the Mediterranean flavors really come out. It tastes exactly like it smells like on the nose. Dried strawberry, dried rose petal, garrigue, leather, a little bit of pepper. Tannins hit pretty hard, so you're gonna, and they are Nebbiolo-like tannins. They just sting. I see some of you in the comments saying, I tried Nebbiolo for the first time, I don't like it, too much acid, it's too harsh, it's too sharp. I was with a pretty famous wine writer, Andrew Jefford. We were taking him through Croatia. He started to really like Plavac Mali, which I think this is. He's like, I like tannin. And the wines don't have to be super easy. Think about Barolos, Barbarescos. If those wines were just introduced nowadays, they'd be incredibly hard to sell with the acidity, the sharpness, the tannin. This wine is a very good example. Very, very good. It's showing super, super well. Let's see what wine 2 here. I have to let you know these wines are not the same vintage. I just couldn't get the same vintages because Barolos, Barbarescos, it's hard for producers to send out library wines. There's such a demand. There's so much pressure to release them. Whereas in Croatia, Plavac Mali, there's a plethora of it. Vintages are held back, so current releases are just usually a tad older. This smells a little fresher on the right, so I think that it might be the Barbaresco. This is more fruit. This is more Mediterranean herb. I find I guess my love for Plavac Mali is coming back. I used to not like it very much. Now I'm starting to like it again. I don't know. I'm preferring wine number 1 right now, to be honest. Okay, once you shake this out, this is cranberry, sour cherry, strawberry. More perfume, where this has like more crushed Mediterranean herbs like the rose petal. This isn't super floral. More perfume, fresh red fruits. This is a lighter Barbaresco, one that's on its toes. People that like Pinot Noir are gonna like this style. Wow, 2 very different wines. Both have super long finishes. Maybe this one here on the right has slightly longer one, but due to the acidity, it's just a little bit higher. I'm kind of liking what's going on in this wine here on the left. Those are what higher acidity, want their mouth to water, they're gonna go from this. People that maybe like something from the Southern Rhone with a little bit lower acidity, I think are gonna go through this. These are both excellent wines. I mean, they're neck and neck. I think it just depends on the style you want. You ready for the reveal? I prefer the one here on the left, which I think is Plavac Mali, but we'll see. I think these are both showing super well. I have this at 92 points. I have this at 93 points. Let's reveal this one here on the right first. I think this is Barbaresco. Let's see. The lighter color may have given away. It is! This is the Adrian Marco Vittoria Sandaive Barbaresco 2019. This is 30 bucks. Okay, a bit younger. Those that like more Pinot Noir stuff, I think the tannins are pretty well done for Nebbiolo. They're not as biting. Very small producer. They make really good wines. Their Bazarin showed up in another blind tasting video I did. They make a Bazarin Reserva, which I think that wine's probably under 50 bucks, and I've blind tasted a lot of times next to more prestigious Barolos, Barbarescos, and sometimes I preferred it. Producer to keep your eye on. This means that this is the Plavac Mali. There was a period a couple years ago, because I was locked down, I was kind of stuck in Croatia. During both of the lockdowns in 2020, 2021, that was the longest over the last 7 years that I was stuck in one place. And I was really kind of starting to hate on Plavac Mali. I just didn't like it that much, but this showed really well. This is the St. Hills Roko, it means Saint Roko, from Dalmatia. This is from the region of Komarna, 100% Plavac Mali. 13.5 alcohol. The Barbaresco is 14. Lower in alcohol. It's a bigger style of wine. The consultant for this winery is the infamous Michel Roland, the French consultant for Pomerol. A lot of people hate on him, but when I heard stories, my friends worked with him. They told me stories about all the work that he was doing with this winery, and I was like, wow, I'm really impressed. Wine's good. 93 points, 40 bucks in the US, so it's $10 more than this one. I think it just comes down to your palate, your preference, what you really like. So tell me, do you like Barbaresco? Have you found any alternative grapes, any alternative wines to Barbaresco? Drop it in the comments below. Thanks a lot, everybody, and I'll see you soon.